My fellow Americans, boys and girls, prepare to be astounded, bedazzled, and otherwise stupefied. This is the Tyrant, your master of ceremonies. Just want to welcome you guys all back to my Fallout Friday series. And today we're going to be talking about something that I can't believe I didn't think of until right now. And that something is, if you read the video title, which you probably did, you closing your eyes before you click videos? Actually, that might be interesting. Actually, might be something I'll try sometime. But anyway, if you did read the title of the video, which all of you did, we're going to be talking about story. Like I said, story is a huge thing for me in games. Like, story is what gets me involved in games. Games are about the adventure. Like, it's a medium. There's a lot of things about games, like the technical aspect of it, but ever since really the 1990s, games have been they've been a medium to explore a story. So I really like any game with a story. I think most games should have story. The fact that some games didn't, or they had really bad story, or just when a game doesn't have a story, it really bothers me, and I'm getting off track here. So I'm gonna stop talking about that. That's another video entirely. Anyway, we're talking about Fallout 4's story. Now, we're looking at the sort of ending part of the story here in Fallout 3, and Fallout 3 did not have a great ending. It didn't really have a great story either. They're passable, they're decent, but I don't think under any definition they can be called great. And I've got a couple reasons for that, but I think most of you, if you played the original Fallout, are going to be on my side here. I know the ending for Fallout 3, for one, if you didn't have broken steel, it was a yes or no ending. The ending for Fallout 3 was either you are a good guy or you're a bad guy, and that's it. Those are your only options, which is a really terrible way to end a game where the entire point is to have lots of choices. The entire point of the game is to be your own character and make your own decisions. Then you get to the end of the game, and it's like, are you good or bad? Check the box. That's it. That's the end. So that was really disappointing. Also, another thing that people really didn't like about the end of Fallout 3 was that there was no real ending boss. Yeah, you got to kill Colonel Autumn, but if you made it to the end of the game, you weren't going to lose that fight. That is not a hard fight at all. And anyway, even if discounting the two soldiers he gets, Colonel Autumn himself is a pushover at best. Now, as far as the final quote-unquote boss goes, because I really don't think Autumn was supposed to be a boss. I really don't think they intended him to be a boss. They just intended you to kill him at the end of the game because you're kind of pissed at him. He killed your dad. Spoilers. Game's been out for 7 years. It's your own dang fault. But anyway, the important thing about choice games shouldn't be the boss at the end. This is a bad example, but look at Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 did not have a boss at the end of the game, and I don't think the ending suffered because of that. Now, you may want to argue that the ending suffered because of a lot of other things, and you're perfectly free to do so, but I don't think that a final boss was necessary at the end of the game. Because when games are about your decisions, when they're about the choices that you made, you don't need to have a final boss. Now, there should be some kind of test of your character's abilities. At the ending of Mass Effect, they have that final holdout where you're defending the missile silos. That was good. The games should always have some sort of test of your abilities. What I'd like to see more from, this last mission right here isn't super. It's not a cakewalk. It's not super tough, but it's not a cakewalk either. The sort of approach here, but what a game I think did it really well, and what I'd like to see from Fallout 4, I want Fallout 4 to do more, is I want to see Fallout 4 have multiple ways for a player to show how strong they are, to show their prowess at the game by this point. So, for instance, you could have a sort of not just two speech checks and however good you are, you figure them out. You could have a dialogue option ending way to end the game to beat the final level or whatever. That's not exactly the right terminology, but you get my drift. There should be, sort of, if you can pick the right options in this conversation, you can end the game without having to fight. But if your character is a fighter, you're just going to fight it out, you know? And then if your character is a sneak-based character, they should be able to find a way to sneak through to the end of the game, you know? They shouldn't be forced into this fight. One thing that I thought they did really well in Assassin's Creed 2, actually, I think has a great ending. Because what Assassin's Creed 1 did is it just sort of threw you into this fight at the end of the game that really wasn't that difficult in the first place and was just kind of not good, because the whole part of the game, it was fun to make the assassinations. That was the fun part of the game. And then the end game is you just fighting a million guys with swords when all you have to do is spam your counter stance and you win. You know, that sucked. So it was great in Assassin's Creed 2 when they still had the fighting thing, but fighting was a lot better in 2, and they also had an entire run-up to the area where you got to test all of the skills that you learned through the game. And that's what we need from Fallout 4's ending. I honestly think Assassin's Creed 2 has one of the best endings out of any game, except for the cliffhanger. Screw that cliffhanger. You made me buy Brotherhood. It's not a good game. Anyway. That's sort of what I want to see from Fallout 4's ending. Now, for Fallout 4's, and like multiple choices, of course, from the ending. There should be a ton of variables in their choices. You know, Mass Effect had 4 endings after DLC. The original Fallout 3 had 2. I want like 6, 7. I mean, and I don't know if I really liked the endings in New Vegas. I will admit that they were definitely better than the Fallout 3 ending, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was faction-based. Like, I want to see an ending that's, like, both karma and faction-based, if you get what my drift there. That one I'm a little unsure on. I don't know. There's just something about those endings that really bothered me. Don't ask me what it was, but something just, irks me. Anyway. So that's what I want to see from the ending, is a lot of options and more ways. What the final test should be variable depending on your final character skills. Now, for the story of the rest of the game, that's a little more difficult because Fallout 3's story was very linear. And I feel like a story, especially in a game focused on exploration, should be more like the story in Mass Effect 1. Where if you played Mass Effect 1, they sort of shepherd you along for a little while, but then they drop off and they say, here's some objectives, feel free to do these whenever you want. Or if you're in Fallout, feel free to never do them. You could just completely ignore them and they won't factor into anything and you could never complete the game and still have fun. Which they had in Fallout 3 too. But it always felt odd in Fallout 3 where you'd get halfway through finding your dad and be like, BRB, I'm gonna go find a violin. Like, that felt weird. That felt really weird. I didn't like that. And I want a story where it doesn't feel weird to sort of drop out halfway through and go do other things, if you're interested in the story. And I also want a story that you can just feel free to ignore. Like, I get that some people, why do I give a frick about my dad? I don't care about my dad. But, like, most of your characters are going to want to know where their dad went, I don't know. But that's my theory. I want a story where they give you a lot of options towards the beginning. They're like, hey, here are some things that you can do to advance the story, but feel free to do them whenever you want. And they don't feel time dependent, That's what I don't want to have, is the feeling like, I feel like I've been waiting for way too long. Like, should my dad have died by now or something like that? Like, that's the kind of issue. I don't know. That's my theory anyway. But that's what I'd like to see from the story. That's what I'd like to see from the ending. If you got a different opinion, let me know. I'd also like to not see any of this in Fallout 4, talking to somebody through a wall. This is best cutscene. But that's what I want to see from the ending and from the story. If you got something different that you want to see from the story or from the ending, let me know down in the comments. I always read and respond to everything in the comments. I do enjoy reading them a lot, actually. So feel free to say what you want to say. And then I've got another thing to say here. Since we're talking about the story, since we're talking about the endings, I should also discuss this channel. Now, I've maybe got like 1 or 2 ideas in me for this series, but I want to know what you guys want me to talk about. I've said from the beginning this is supposed to be a discussion. I want to get as many people involved as possible. So tell me in the comments not only your opinion on story, but also what you want me to talk about. What you want to be in the next Fallout game. Maybe not, obviously not Fallout 4, that's coming out in November, but in any Fallout game, in Fallout 5, in Fallout 8, whatever, what you want to see in a Fallout game. That's the whole point of this series, is to talk about Fallout. So let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm right about the story, if you want this sort of branching, divergent story with lots of cool stuff in it, or do you want a linear story? Did you like the story in Fallout 3? Did you like the ending in Fallout 3? I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't hate this ending. It wasn't great, but I didn't hate it. And granted, I did have I've never played the vanilla game. I started playing with the Brotherhood of Steel expansion, so I've never had to suffer through you only get one choice. You're basically put into the situation where you can choose good or bad. Check the Xbox of whether you're evil or not. I've never been shoveled into that, at least not at this part. So I didn't have the ending you did, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I still don't hate this ending. I thought it was okay. Like I said, it's passable, but it's not good. And I want a good ending. I want a great ending. I want a Mass Effect 2 ending. Mass Effect 2 had a good ending. Yeah, that's what I want to see from the game. So let me know what kind of story you want to see from the game. I'm going to wrap this up here. I've been talking way too long. But thank you guys for watching. If you want to leave a like, leave a like. If you want to subscribe, if you do that sort of thing, I do always appreciate it. Anyone is welcome here. And this is the Tyrant signing off. Good night, everybody.